Airdrops are one of my favorite things about the crypto space because you can be massively rewarded just for using new technology early. I mean, who doesn't want free money? You know, I've personally been the recipient of multiple airdrops in the past, you know, some being $10,000 or more just by making a few transactions on a blockchain application before other people do. You know, apps like Uniswap, 1inch Exchange, ENS, and a whole lot more. So many of these, you know, I've talked about on my channel ahead of time before the actual airdrops have taken place. And in this video, I want to talk about some other top candidates for crypto airdrops in the future, you know, potentially coming up really soon. And then also give you a resource that you can look at to see hundreds of projects that could be eligible for airdrops. Talk about a strategy to put these together to where you can position yourself for this, and also give you some of my personal top picks. So before we get into that, you know, if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to know how to master blockchain step-by-step start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. All right, so let's talk about some top candidates for crypto airdrops because, you know, who doesn't want some free money, especially in the middle of the crypto bear market that we're a part of right now. So let's sort of set the stage for this. What's the playbook? What's the opportunity here? So, of course, you know, crypto airdrops are a really hot way to incentivize early adopters for new blockchain technology. So this is basically the playbook that's happened in the past where you've seen projects like Uniswap, you know, 1inch Exchange, ENS, and a whole lot more. Basically, there are existing applications out there on the blockchain, you know, powered by smart contracts. And essentially, you know, they don't have a cryptocurrency yet. And so they want to create a cryptocurrency maybe to govern a protocol. Maybe it's to incentivize people who actually run the protocols, like if it's a layer 2 blockchain or something like that. And so essentially what you do is you take everybody who has used the application early before the token exists, and then you retroactively reward them. Okay. So this was a surprise whenever it first came out, but now we're seeing pretty much everybody start to do this. Sort of the idea is that if something doesn't have a token yet, that's probably going to have a token in the future. And so if you start using this stuff before these tokens come out, then you can position yourself to get some free money this way. Now, full disclosure, right? Like what I'm telling you in this video, I'm showing you how to do. There's no guarantee that if you do exactly what I'm talking about, that you are going to get free money or that it's a certain amount or something like that. But I'm talking about a strategy that's going to increase the likelihood that you would position yourself for something like this. Because ultimately, nobody has a crystal ball and knows the future. Of course, unless you have insider information. But the best thing you can do is try multiple things and may give you some options in this video. All right, so now let's talk about some actual candidates for airdrops. The first one I want to pull up here is it has a little bit of irony associated with it. You kind of have to read between the lines. But this is a tweet from one of the founders of Three Arrows Capital, which is, you know, one of the big players in the space that kind of blew up in the last big crypto crisis, you know, facing some insolvency issues, which spread contagion across multiple players in the space. And they actually tweeted out an email from some of their legal dealings here talking about exercising good faith with the Starkware token warrants. Okay, so if you read between the lines, we see a lot of people saying like, hey, well, that pretty much confirms a Starkware token. Okay, so, you know, that basically leads me to saying, yes, you know, Starkware is an Ethereum layer 2 scaling solution that can power lots of other things. And if we take something like this at face value, it's almost like a confession that, you know, Starkware is definitely going to have a token and confirm that. So that's one you want to keep your eye on, and you can check a website like L2beat.com to see lots of other layer 2s that don't have tokens yet. All right, so now let's talk about a tool that you can use to find new candidates for crypto airdrops, okay? So, you know, the whole idea here is, like I was saying before, you want to find blockchain projects that, you know, have been out there in the wild that have real users, but don't have cryptocurrencies associated with them yet. And so if you look at a website like DeFiLlama.com, I've used this a lot in my videos. It's a DeFi analytics website where you can go look at, you know, different blockchain projects and look at metrics like their TVL, you know, the number of active users and all that type of stuff. Well, actually, if you go to this Airdrops tab, they give you a bunch of tokens that are listed on their website, okay, that don't have cryptocurrencies yet. And they have all these other metrics associated with that, like when the project was listed, the amount of TVL that's in the project, and also the amount of change. And so if I expand the site here, you can also see things like the category, like a staking, a prediction market yield aggregator, indexes or dexes. You can also see which chains they are listed on. Okay, so if I pull it out even more, you can see the chains here. And if I scroll to the bottom of the list and wait for this to refresh, okay, we're talking about hundreds of projects here. Okay, so, you know, this is almost a nearly endless list of things that you could potentially use. So how would you make use of this? Okay, so we'll start with the basics. Like, let's just say you've identified a project that looks interesting to you. I'm going to talk in a minute about maybe how to filter through some of this since it's a lot of information. But what you would do is you would basically, just find a project that looks interesting to you. Okay, let's look at one, on the Ethereum ecosystem, for example. Let's say you're already on Ethereum. Okay, you've got some funds there. You've got Ethereum wallet. Well, let's look at this fractal protocol. So I'm not necessarily saying this is one that's going to airdrop, but let's just look at it as a candidate. Well, you click through to it. Okay, you see, the information here. Here's the TVL. You click through to the website. You could do some basic research on this, some due diligence, just to see what you think about the project based on their website or their social media to see if you think it's a project that's actually safe to interact with. And then you can just, click through their site and the application, I should say, and then connect your wallet with MetaMask and start, making some transactions and actually using the applications themselves. And so that's an example of how you might position yourself for an application like on top of the Ethereum platform. Let's say you already have an Ethereum wallet and some Ether inside of it. Now, let's talk about some other applications that are not necessarily on Ethereum, because you can see there's all these different chains here. This is not just an ETH chain, but this website is specific to EVM compatible blockchains. So basically, if you have smart contracts on Ethereum, you can put them on multiple different ecosystems like, Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, okay, all these other things like layer 2 scaling solutions, and that's really what this index is. Now, another quick thing I want to say about this is, I have not done due diligence on every single project on this list. That's another thing you definitely want to watch out for. I'm not endorsing every project on this list. I'm not saying everyone's safe to use. I'm not saying that they're all going to do airdrops. This is just a resource that you can use to look for new candidates. And now let's say that you wanted to use a different chain, like Polygon, for example. Let's say you want to do a low cost, chain. Well, you could look at things that were just on the Polygon chain. Okay, so you can actually filter through and find only, projects that might be supported on the actual Polygon blockchain itself. So that being said, if you want to do that, how do you get over and actually use those? Let's say that you don't have any Polygon tokens. Well, first of all, you need a MetaMask wallet. Okay, and one of the easiest ways is essentially just to withdraw from a cryptocurrency exchange with some Ether. Okay, and then bridge that over to the Polygon bridge and swap it for essentially the cryptocurrency that you would use to pay fees on Polygon. So you have to use a bridge to do this, basically. And then you connect your wallet on the bridge site and then, move your funds from one environment to the other. Now, as always, there's always risk with using bridges. You don't want to, send any money around that you can't afford to lose. So definitely exercise caution. But once you're on that ecosystem, then you can start using the different applications like that I was talking about. So, for example, if you wanted to go look at, team finance support on multiple chains, you could, make transactions on Ethereum. Maybe you just want to do it on Polygon. You'd walk through that same workflow, do due diligence here, connect your wallet, select the actual network that you want to do, in this case, Polygon, and then start using the protocol. All right, so now let's talk about some strategies on how to use a resource like this effectively, because like I was saying before, there are hundreds of projects on this, okay? This is basically just automatically indexing all the projects that get added to the protocol itself, or the website, I should say. And so, realistically, not everybody watching this video is going to go make a transaction on every single application. Like, that would start to get expensive, not only in transaction fees, but also in time. So what are some strategies that you could do to just filter, down and then, try to, get some sort of benefit without having to, just try everything? So the first thing that I would do is start to have a place where you can keep track of the projects that you want to try. So this could just be a free spreadsheet that you keep either on your computer, or maybe on Google Drive or something like that. Or you just say okay, here's a project that I want to do. Maybe you list out 10, maybe it's 20, maybe it's 100. I don't know. But whatever you realistically have the time and the money for, and then you just space those out over time. Okay. Maybe you just do a couple per day, every single day for a few weeks. Well, that starts to add up really fast. Maybe you increase it to 5 a day or 10 a day. Theoretically, you could work through, hundreds of projects with that kind of cadence. Now, in that sort of spreadsheet, you want to have, the wallet that you actually use, at least the address that you can remember, I did this transaction with this wallet on that app. Maybe you use multiple wallets. You want to have some sort of sanity check to keep track. But then once you've got that in place, how do you actually pick the projects that you want to use? Let's look at some different strategies for filtering those down. So one is that it can get expensive to start using technology when the gas fees are high, let's say on a chain like Ethereum. Let's say you wanted to do it on a lower cost chain, maybe like Polygon, or maybe on an Ethereum layer 2 or something like that. Well, one strategy is you could just bridge some funds over to those environments and then say, well, I'm only going to use projects on Polygon. All right. Then you find all the Polygon projects that don't have tokens yet. That's significantly going to filter down this list, and then you just go make transactions or start becoming a user of those applications, because there might be some more investment required than just making a single transaction. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Okay. Or maybe you do the same thing for Optimism ecosystem. Maybe say, I'm going to do everything on Optimism, and then you go try those projects. So that's one strategy. And then you don't have to bridge around a bazillion times. You just go to one environment and then you just stick to that. Okay. Or maybe you do that as a strategy that you check off this environment, then you move to this one and you keep a track of spreadsheet of projects that you've used. So another way is to prioritize things on the amount of time that they've been listed and have not had a token yet. So you could say, well, I'm going to look at the top 10 projects that have been around for, 100, the oldest projects, right? They don't have tokens yet. I'm going to do the top 10 or top 20, okay? So also be careful of the filtering here on the website whenever you sort. It sorts it by alphabetical order, not actual age, okay? So like 9.82 is right next to 91.88. That's kind of a little bit of a bug here, but just know that. Another way would be to sort by total value locked, okay? So you could sort by TVL and find the highest TVL projects that don't have tokens yet. Again, you want to do some due diligence to see how this TVL is actually calculated, to see whether it's a BS number, if it's actually legit. Okay, same thing you could do for one-day change. You can look at the top projects that are growing. Basically, if the one-day change is high, that means it's gaining fast adoption. Same thing for 7-day change or 1 month change. There's lots of different useful metrics that you can use here in order to filter out some of these opportunities. You can also see at the top, you can change some of your filtering to double count TVL. Include borrows, pool to, or staking in TVL. You can play with these around a little bit if you want to change the TVL metrics. All right, so let's talk about another thing here that you want to keep into account whenever you're positioning yourself for these airdrops, is that some of these are actually getting a little more exclusive in their requirements for the early adopters, okay? So, with some of the earliest airdrops, you saw really basic participation awards, like with Uniswap, for example. Like if you made a single transaction, I think is what it was on Uniswap, like you would have gotten I think it was 400 free Uni tokens whenever that happened, okay? And if you did that for any wallet in which you made a transaction, like, you would have just been stacking a bunch of tokens absolutely for free. Of course, that was during a bull run, and those tokens increased in value, so you would have gotten a lot of money. Some of the airdrops are getting a little more competitive in the sense of they're trying to exclude people who have just made like a single transaction, or they are more heavily weighting people who have done more than just a single transaction. So we've seen some of this with the airdrops lately. Sometimes they don't just exclude people, but they'll say like, hey, you need to have made a transaction before X date, all right? And let's say you weren't a super, super early adopter, but now you're trying to get on the train. Well, how can you increase the likelihood if you don't make that cutoff? Well, you can start doing more, okay? And that's one strategy that you could do is if you find a few candidates here where you're like, I really believe in this project or that project, you can kind of go deeper invested in those projects as a user, okay? Maybe you can supply some liquidity to the protocol, okay? That's going to increase the likelihood that you can get that. You could do multiple transactions over a number of days, okay? And you can work that in your plan. Like if you're going through and saying, okay, today I'm going to do, five projects or 5 transactions, you could just add transactions into that cadence, to increase that likelihood. And probably one of the best ways, is if you're a developer, do you actually build something on one of these protocols? We have seen incentives for builders in the past, and that could be a way that you can get a lot more tokens, than just the average Joe. Okay. Of course, if you're doing any kind of infrastructure, for these protocols, let's say you're on top of, layer 2 or something like that, then you're very likely going to get more heavily rewarded for more investment in that actual ecosystem. All right, so let's talk about some of my personal top picks for airdrop candidates, okay? So you can see all the different categories here, like from applications, bridges, dexes, staking, all that type of stuff. Okay, so my top category for airdrops in the future are definitely for the layer 2s on top of the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm not saying these are the only people that are going to, airdrop, but like, me personally, realistically speaking, I can't sit here and, I can't do airdrops on hundreds of different projects, like I was saying before. How do I personally filter that down to projects that I want to invest more time and attention to? Well, that's definitely the Ethereum layer 2 ecosystem. Okay, so basically this is the strategy for scaling Ethereum in the future, where you create this second environment on top of the Ethereum blockchain, and then you can have general purpose layer 2s where developers can add their applications to that, and that can speed up those transactions at a low, and especially have lower cost. We've already seen apps like Optimism do an airdrop. I say apps. I mean layer 2 scaling solutions like Optimism. Okay. And so, they're essentially rewriting the playbook for how, these airdrops work. And like, there's no reason to think that most of these layer 2s are not going to airdrop tokens in the future. So Arbitrum is definitely one that I've got my eye on. We talked about, Starkware earlier in the video, but this is essentially the short list of, general purpose scaling solutions. And I'd say most of these are very likely to have tokens in the future. All right. So that's an overview of some of the top projects to watch out for that could do crypto airdrops in the future. Again, so there's no guarantee that all these projects are going to do airdrops, but, nobody can accurately predict the future. So the best thing that you can do is try to get a list of projects that you want to try to start using them and increase the likelihood that you would be eligible for those types of things. So as always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out so the more people can learn about blockchain. And if you're as fascinated with this technology as I am, you want to get your hands dirty, how can you get started today? You can go to my YouTube homepage. You can find my free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. And if you'd like those and you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you'll take a master shortcut entirely, I can show you that master blockchain step-by-step from start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You don't have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.